Yeah, welcome Maya to the No Excuses, No Bullshit podcast. Glad to have you here. How are you
Hi.
doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I've been waiting to come on this podcast for a while now.
Yeah, happy that we found some time. That's awesome. Yeah, maybe you can start with a small introduction of yourself, what you're doing, and yeah, I think that's pretty interesting for the listeners.
Yeah, sure. A little bit about me. So I'm British. I'm 32, born and raised in Hong Kong. So I grew up in Asia. So I've had a bit of a cultural different upbringing. My original love was art. So I've worked between the fitness and actually the creative space. I've been a personal trainer and a martial arts instructor. And then I've moved into social media consulting. And I was building and running my own agency for a while here in Hong Kong. Recently been able to wrap that up and leave that behind. And I now work online remotely in Hong Kong, serving a handful of clients doing their social media consulting.
Awesome. Yes, so you have a pretty nice journey behind you, and yeah, as I know you did some 9 to 5 stuff, not 9 to 5, but part-time, I think, before. And so it's pretty interesting what changed now. Like, how did you get there, and what habits did you implement to, like to stay on track? And also, if you're fully self-employed, you need to keep the motivation high because nobody tells you what to do, right? So you make your own plan.
Yeah, this is true. It is hard when you're fully self-employed. I mean, I'm only recently pulling myself out of the 9 to 5 and into fully self-employed. But I guess what's nice with the nature of my work is the deadlines online with social media and creating content kind of gives me a framework for my day. Like there'll be obviously amounts of projects or graphics or
Yeah.
whatever I have to get done, and then that I section that off during my day. I've actually found, in terms of habits, I've been working better in work blocks, like 90-minute work blocks. And instead of setting them at specific times, I just have a few different blocks that I'll mix and match throughout the day, depending
Ah,
on how I'm feeling, possibly, or depending on if client work suddenly got a bit demanding or if I have more of my free time. But one of the really big habits I started recently in terms of shifting out of working for somebody else or working and building my own stuff is that I realized in my schedule, the client work always gets done. Like if I'm working for someone else, I always find I'm able to get the work done on a deadline. Whereas whenever I set projects for myself, I always find it very easy to reschedule the deadline if it, misses. And that's
mm,
something that's quite hard, I think, when you're a solo creator to kind of keep yourself accountable to the self-set deadlines. So
yeah.
what I found in terms of my work blocks and how I shifted it, I used to get up, do my client work, train, have lunch, and then get my work done in the afternoon. And what I found was that by the time I got to the afternoon, I was a bit too tired, or if I wasn't really, if I didn't have a really productive to-do list or know exactly what I was getting into, I'd say like, oh, do a research content block. And then I'd spend 2 hours or 3 hours just surfing the internet or, not really getting anything done
Yeah.
and moving projects forward. So I found now that what I do is I get up and I set my personal work blocks first. And
Mhm.
then depending on where my mindset at, it's either create content or work on something within the business. So like anything to do with the back end, all those annoying little tasks that I know I personally always try and push off, like setting back end emails or, sorting out a landing page or linking your web pages, like all the little to-do things that pop up. So I found that putting those in the morning first and then having a break where I train, eat, possibly have a nap depending on how I'm feeling. And then I get client work done in the afternoon when I don't actually have as much brain power because the clients that I'm dealing with at the moment don't require as much like focus from me. So it's been nice to kind of play around with that blocks. I wouldn't say I've found a set routine, but
Mhm.
playing with those work blocks and making sure that I have that amount set in the week, like so that I can cover my
Mhm.
clients and I know I've worked on my projects enough. That seems to be working for me at the moment.
Yeah, it's a good mix of flexibility and have a structure. It's more kind of a framework. And I also found that shifting the more complex tasks to the morning is way better for me because before I also did the 9 to 5 first, and then I shifted the complex tasks like the video recordings and stuff, you need to have energy for that. Also, the mobile app development I'm doing at the moment, I cannot do this in the evenings. Without after the 9 to 5, I'm just tired.
Brain's
I do
fried.
yeah, I do stuff that doesn't require that much energy or focus, some mundane tasks to call. And yeah, this works way better for me, way better for me. So I totally get why you shifted that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and how do you sort the chaos? How do you sort the chaos? What are your balancing habits? I know you're working out. I think that's a big one. So
Yeah, moving is the main one for me. I notice every time I start to get overwhelmed and it gets to that point where I'm starting to get little anxiety attacks
yeah.
like I used to in my old jobs. I take a look at my schedule and I realize I haven't trained for a couple of days. So moving definitely helps. I find if I don't have the energy to do a full training session sometimes when work's a bit heavy, even just making sure you go out for a walk, for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just to clear your head with no phone, no nothing.
Mhm.
That's been a big one for me as well. The staying calm in the chaos, I think, come to a few realizations recently as well that a lot of your own worry, it's all your own perspective. It's all, the stresses that you're putting on yourself. So it's sort of being able to take a deep breath and just sit back and connect again and just, it's like, what's important right now, or what am I worrying about right now? And again, whenever my head gets really dizzy or really overwhelmed, it's because I've dropped my base habits in terms of, like, I'm not journaling anymore, I'm not working out anymore, I probably haven't been drinking enough water, or I haven't been getting enough sleep. So it's just reminding yourself that these patterns also come with dropping other habits, and that it's not necessarily that it's all the stress on all the work that you're doing, because a lot of people do have overwhelming lives. Like, there's a lot to do, there's a lot to remember, there's a lot of things on your mind. So it's not necessarily about always just having to get that under control. It's just more making sure that you're taking care of yourself within the chaos, because otherwise you're going to be a lot worse at the other end of it. I found that that's where you sort of hit those burnout dips, and it gets harder to pull yourself out if you've not been maintaining those baseline habits. And just even as simple as drinking a bit of water and going for a walk. Like, I've just had to pull myself out of that more often and just make sure I get it in.
Yeah, that's why I always ask the people which balancing habits they have. Because if you're having a lot of projects going on, if you have a 9 to 5, if you're working on some side project, that's a lot of work. And I know focus is important, but which habits help you to balance that out? You cannot just work, and so
No.
you need some habits to fall back on that give you a little break. For me, it's working out. Like, I do something for my body every day. And what I have found is, if I have on Thursdays, I have a long. So basically, I do one hour for the mobile app development in the mornings every day. And then I have additional time on Thursdays. So Thursdays is my coding afternoon. And I saw that I'm getting really, really anxious because sometimes, or feeling bad because I just forget to drink. I just forget to eat. And so I do coding or mobile app dev stuff for 4 hours straight or 5 hours straight. And then after that, I feel bad. And then I realized, okay, dude, you didn't get some fluid
You
in.
didn't eat.
Yeah. And so
I
that's
understand
that's
those
just
zones.
your body responding. Everything is good. Everything is good, but you didn't drink and you didn't eat. That's the point. And so I think most of the times we should take a look on the last few hours and analyze if we really treated our body right, or even the last week. So I think so you made a good point with that one.
Yeah. And I think that's where I've been enjoying the work blocks, and like setting a timer for 90 minutes, notifications off, music on, whether it's, just instrumental music if it's something I have to focus on, or I enjoy listening to songs with lyrics when it's work that I can do a bit more mindlessly. But yeah, that timer, when it goes off for 90 minutes, sort of, finish where you're at in the flow, but also just standing up, going to the kitchen, getting a
Yes.
glass of water, taking a quick break, stretching if you need, getting some fresh air, and just having that reminder that you don't dip so far in. I mean, I do enjoy the 4-hour focused zones sometimes when you get into that zone, but it's also, you can't do it indefinitely. So I think it's also just remembering that there's just phases to everything. And when you are overwhelmed or you do have a lot coming up, again, being able to take that step back and be like, okay, maybe the next 2 weeks is going to be a bit of a push, but let's plug in a day off or a rest day, here properly, so that you can actually recover and, reset the mind as well. And I think, that comes into play when you're building your own stuff on the side, and when you're working on, especially if you have a 9 to 5 and you're also building something on the side, because the pressure that you feel to turn this into your source of income as soon as possible is always going to be there. But it's one of those things where whatever project we're working on, it usually takes longer than we expect, regardless, to get it done. So it's
definitely.
How can you break that up into almost sort of little mini sprints, so that, again, you don't burn out on either end of the candle and you're able to actually sustain it. Because I think the more we can actually decrease that feeling of burnout or feeling of overwhelm with what it is we're doing, I think that's the key to actually, sustainably building this in the long run.
Yes. To win the long way, the long run, the long game. Yeah, I think that's the reason why I'm always focusing on balancing habits too. Yeah, I mean, I needed to learn that lesson too. It's always because that's the reason why you tend to overload yourself, because you want to get it as fast as possible. But I think you need to realize that it usually takes longer than you expect. And I think
and I think the whole thing, oh, sorry, carry on.
no, oh, fine. And I think the reason why people think when they start it will happen way faster is that they compare themselves to people that already have the results. And we know, if you look at a social media profile and they have, I don't know, 100K followers, it seems like they went there in 2 months or something like that. Or someone that I don't care, like whatever project it is. That's just you need to look at the whole journey. They may have put in the work for some years already. If they build it sustainably. Yeah.
And it's the hardest thing to do when you're in it, right? Because it feels so much. And I think there's also something to the balance where you also can realize that not everything has to be fully in balance all the time. Like if you have something where you need to focus on your work for a little bit, then, be aware that your exercise and your fitness might come down, but just knowing that it can't stay like that. I think that's kind of how we need to just, finding your flow and doing what's working for you. It's the hardest thing not to compare when we're in this world. We're inundated with everything, but it really does. And that's been one thing that's actually helped me recently, calming down as well when I'm overwhelmed, is just it's your race, it's your life, like it's your timeline. It's not that feeling of being rushed, I feel, needs to be put into a different energy. Like it should be put into the creative energy instead of the worry energy, because we always feel like we're behind, all of us. It's incredible.
Yes, but
the more people I talk to,
that's just the nature of people like us, I would say. That want a little more than just the mediocre stuff. But
agreed.
That's just stuff you need to learn, because otherwise you're out of the game very, very fast. And but that's exactly the things you learn, and that's so valuable. I have learned so much the past 2 years about myself and about all the stuff I'm doing currently. I'm far from my best, but I'm working on getting there every day. And for me it's important to show up every day. And so that's why I have my baseline, what I'm doing every day. But if there's, of course, if the energy is low, I'm also doing the baseline, and that's it. I don't use a day when it's not most effective to do stuff, you know, if you have low energy.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
well, I heard a nice like analogy for that as well. It's like use 100% of what you've got for the day. So if you
yes,
only feel like you have
exactly.
50% in the tank, just give 100% of your 50%, you know,
Yes.
like just do it all and just, yeah, I think and that's also another balancing act, right? You know, how hard do you push yourself? How hard do you give yourself some leeway? And, you know, it's all about just staying aware of your triggers as well, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And you also said sometimes you I would say neglect. I'm not the I don't know if that's the right word, but I have the gym goals and I have the calisthenics goals. And I found myself
Mm.
pushing too hard in the gym, so I'm off a little with the calisthenics goals.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's exactly also a example where you need to refocus. And yeah, now I'm balancing out those two. But I think that's normal to put also with the mobile app development. I put a little too much effort in that, so I neglected other stuff. So yeah, but I think that's also part of the process. And
Yeah.
especially if you have a lot, if you have more than one project you want to move the needle forward for. Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
that's
then it's going to take even longer.
yeah. But another thing I wanted to ask you is what are the milestones or goals for that year? Do you have any big milestones
For this year?
for
Yes,
this
yeah, I
year?
have a few. Like I said, I've recently been able to let go of my last sort of part-time job. So now I have a handful of my own clients. I'm going to be focusing on building my own workshops and online tutorials this year. We've got a trip to the mountains in Italy, which I'm really looking forward to. Every year we go
Awesome.
hiking for 10 days. So that's kind of my window at the moment. Just experiment, have fun, get creative, and start enjoying some of my output systems for content. And
Mhm.
then towards the end of the year, we'll see what that looks like, but hopefully launch some sort of course or something like that. And then fitness goals, I'm ready to get back into my martial arts training. I feel once I've finished this next month or two, I want to get back into my staff spinning and kung fu and hopefully get back into BJJ at some point this year. But yeah, step by step.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like some big goals. And yeah, where do you want to launch the course? Do you have any idea already?
The course will probably just be online. I'll be calling it out. I'm starting to help, not starting to help, I'm starting to create these systems around content creation that I'd like to help other creators teach and make sure that they're not straying too far from what it is they want to build and falling trap for turning social media into your boss and like
Yeah.
creating for the algorithms and everything. So
Ah,
just making sure that it's always coming back to your goal, like your main focus, and the content's a byproduct of that. So it's still a bit of a out there concept. I'm pulling it all together, and yeah, this year I'll be exploring a few other platforms and hopefully doing some more podcasts and speaking so I can clarify everything and actually present it in a way that makes sense.
yeah, you need to share the links then. I'm
Yes,
fully supporting you, Maya, as you know. Like,
thank you. Yeah, we've been in this for a while now, so I'm excited to see where this year goes for both of us.
yeah, we definitely need to have more sessions this year to also keep the listeners up to date. And
For
yeah, it would be
sure. Yes, we'll
awesome
do it.
if you would be one of the first testers of the apps then when I'm finished.
Ugh. Done. You have to send it my way for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's it for today.
Amazing. Thank
Already
you so much for
looking.
having me on.
Thank you so much for coming, honestly. Like I really appreciate you all, you creative people coming to the podcast, taking your time. And I know we are all busy, and the more I appreciate your time, really.
Thank you. I'm just so glad, like with all of us all over the world, that we can actually connect and do this. It still blows my mind that we're able to create these
Aw-
little communities. Yeah.
yeah, awesome times. Yeah, I wish you a nice rest of the weekend and hope to see you soon.
Amazing. See you soon.
Bye bye.